Hey guys, welcome back to today's video. Today is Thursday, December 20th, 2018, and we're going to go through a 2020 Democratic primary prediction between Vice President Joe Biden and Beto O'Rourke from the state of Texas. So, we're going to go ahead and start with the state-by-state comparison. We're not going to go into margins. We're not going to go into delegate count. If you're new to my videos, the reason why I do use the electoral map is because it gives you a general, pretty accurate representation of the population in terms of delegates. Obviously, no system is perfect. I have not found a system that's able to actually do proportional delegates in terms of the system, especially with updated delegates in 2020. And again, looking at a number of states, even though they may have the same amount of electoral votes, they may have different terms of delegates for the Democratic Party, which is something that's a little bit weird in terms of always predicting primary elections using an electoral map. But this is just to give you a general conclusion as to who I believe will win each individual state, which will be signified by either the red or the blue. For Beto O'Rourke is blue, and then Joe Biden will be red. And then we're just going to go through the map, and you're going to see exactly how I think each state will go. So again, we're not using margins because I do feel like that's going a little too in depth, especially this far out into the election season. I will obviously get more into primaries around January when the first primary actually not when the first primary actually begins to occur, when the election season actually starts to build up attention, because we just finished 2018. The 2018 midterms have just finished. We're going to lead in 2019. People are going to announce their candidacy probably January, February, March, and April, maybe up until July, and then it's going to be a cutoff. Obviously not an official cutoff, but still, the Democratic Party will probably have at least 10 candidates at that point. And then you're going to lead into the next year, and a year from now, when it goes from 2019 to 2020, then we'll actually start the primaries, and that'll be pretty interesting. But for today, we're going to choose two popular names for the 2020 presidential primaries. So Beto O'Rourke actually polling third in the state of Iowa and nationwide. Joe Biden coming in first in both Iowa and nationwide, and Bernie Sanders coming in second. So I recently did a video of Joe Biden versus Bernie Sanders. Joe Biden did win the primary in that scenario, especially with superdelegates who are still likely to back the establishment candidates. But Beto O'Rourke has more of an Obama appeal than you might think. If you look at the way he's campaigned, the way he's talked to voters, you see a lot of parallels between the two. But Joe Biden is also very close to Barack Obama. And again, I've seen in my previous video, a lot of you are saying I'm upplaying the Obama card. This is a Democratic primary. You can't upplay the Obama card. This is the card to play, and Joe Biden, I think, has that one securely in the bag. I mean, he was the vice president. And again, these are the same Democratic Party voters that voted in 2008, 2012, 2016, and time again, even before 2008. Establishment Democrat, Al Gore, the incumbent vice president. Going into 2004, John Kerry. You go into 2008, Barack Obama. 2016, Hillary Clinton. There's a general trend of new Democrats that are getting in here. And yes, progressive candidates typically are doing a little bit better than they were previously. But again, those are just tapping into individual areas. Beto O'Rourke, I wouldn't exactly define as a progressive, more as someone who is a little bit more moderate, especially coming from a state like Texas. A progressive is not winning a statewide election in a state like Texas. Maybe New York, maybe Pennsylvania, not Texas. And Beto O'Rourke came very close to winning the Senate election back in 2018. Joe Biden ran for president 2 times before. Beto O'Rourke said he's not going to run in 2020. But again, things can change. Hillary Clinton said she wouldn't run in 2016, and we all know how that turned out. So we're going to go ahead and start off with the respective home states. Joe Biden, I do think, will carry the state of Pennsylvania and the state of Delaware. The state of Pennsylvania is where he was born. He was born in a town in Pennsylvania, but Delaware is where he represented them as a senator, and then went on to go be vice president from senator from Delaware to the vice presidential office of the United States. And Beto O'Rourke really has no real experience behind expel except for being a representative from Texas. And a House representative member has not been president in a very long time, much less nominated. Has not been nominated in a very long time, much less been president. But again, anything is possible in this day and age. We all got defied by Trump in 2016. But Beto O'Rourke, he's pretty interesting. Though I do think going against a powerhouse candidate like Joe Biden, this would be two very top names clashing. Unfortunately for Beto O'Rourke, I do think that Joe Biden has just a little bit more of a solidified base, especially with his presence being in the Democratic Party so large. And I do think a lot of Democrats are really angry at people like Beto O'Rourke, to be completely honest with you. These are candidates that ran in 2018, had no name recognition a year before, and now all of a sudden they're at the top for a presidential election. Keeping that in mind. If Elizabeth Warren ran in 2016, keep in mind her first Senate term was 2012. And now she's all of a sudden a huge top name, whereas Hillary Clinton's been in there since being First Lady of Arkansas. Okay, other candidates. Bernie Sanders has been in Congress since before Hillary Clinton was First Lady of Arkansas. Okay, if we're looking at a number of these candidates, some of them may be angry at candidates like Beto O'Rourke, but that has nothing to do with the vote impact. Just I'm thinking when it comes down to the superdelegates and delegate vote, they may not be too likely to vote for a newcomer. I think that they're going to realize that this election they need a winner and not someone who's going to change the map. And again, by saying change the map, I also mean like redrawing party lines, redrawing party values, and that may not be something the Democratic Party needs right now, if I'm being completely honest with you. They lost 2016. If they're dividing the party even more, their chances of winning 2020 go down dramatically. But moving on to Beto O'Rourke, some state, I do think he could carry Texas. Now, Joe Biden, typically I would expect him to do very well in Texas, but the Sun Belt's an area where Joe Biden is going to lack because of Beto O'Rourke's support. We're going to go through the Northeast, and you're going to see Joe Biden's numbers go up, and then you're going to see Beto O'Rourke's numbers go up when we go over here, and then we'll get to the bigger swing states. So I'm not going to cover too many right now. But New York, New Jersey, Maryland, these are states that I do think Joe Biden can just hold on to, riding the Obama legacy. And also these states have typically voted for establishment Democrats in the past. No reason why they wouldn't now, especially with someone like Beto O'Rourke, who I do think can do a lot better in certain parts of the country, just maybe not in the Northeast. For someone like Joe Biden, I'm not necessarily seeing a Beto O'Rourke victory in the state of Vermont or New Hampshire or Maine. Though these are somewhat progressive states, they are going to turn back to Democrats like Joe Biden, because Joe Biden is not quote-unquote as bad as Hillary Clinton according to approval polls. He's liked by a lot more Democrats and Republicans nationwide, which means that a number of these voters who may have not liked Hillary Clinton, they may dislike Joe Biden, but they're not going to hate him as much as they did Hillary Clinton. She just really turned off a huge part of the country, across the Rust Belt, across the Northeast, which is why a couple of states flipped from where they were before. I mean, she lost Wisconsin, she lost Michigan in the primaries. West Virginia overwhelmingly went to Bernie Sanders, even though it's a very conservative state, all because they did not like Hillary Clinton. Yes, there were other factors in there, but that's just a general wrap on it all. And then, of course, the District of Columbia goes for Joe Biden. I do think he can do very well in the state of Virginia. That is a state that I think Joe Biden can hold on to. For West Virginia, I'm not seeing that Bernie Sanders appeal come out for someone like Beto O'Rourke. Being completely honest with you, this part of the country in the Deep South, huge African-American population, doesn't look too good for Beto O'Rourke. Looking at Mississippi, Alabama, Georgia, South Carolina, North Carolina, Tennessee, Arkansas, Louisiana. These states already being filled in with Missouri already put Joe Biden at 220 electoral votes. Again, this is not a presidential election, but the fact that Joe Biden has gotten this close just by holding on to that Clinton area and just picking up a couple seats in the Northeast, he's gotten very, very close. But to balance it out, we're going to go ahead and start with the Beto O'Rourke state. So I do think he can do very well in Nevada, Arizona, New Mexico, and Colorado. Now, the reason being, Beto O'Rourke is going to do phenomenal across the Sun Belt. He's going to be able to bring out droves and a lot of Hispanic voters. These are voters that are vital and crucial, which is the same thing. I don't know why I repeated it, but they are crucial to the Democratic Party's victory every single time. Colorado, New Mexico, Nevada, Arizona. 4 states that have voted for Democrats in a statewide election or a presidential election in the past 2 to 3 years. And one thing they all have in common is a heavy minority population, especially Latino voters. They are crucial to the Democratic Party's victory in a number of these states. Without them, they would have lost Arizona, New Mexico, Colorado, Nevada, and not even come close in Texas. White voters are not the reason the Democratic Party is doing better. These are minority voters. That's the reason for the South holding on to the Obama legacy. Though they are not necessarily the best in the general election in the Democratic primary, you best believe that any type of Obama candidate is going to do phenomenal in these states. For Beto O'Rourke, I do think his appeal can go out to a little bit more of, Latino and possibly some more whiter voters, considering he does have more of an Obama's type style of campaigning, visiting each individual state, or for the state of Texas, visiting each individual county. But for right now, I'm going to give these Sunbelt states to Beto O'Rourke, along with the state of California. That is a state that is going to vote very early on. Even though Joe Biden may have some energy, Beto O'Rourke can do pretty well there. Now, looking at some of the progressive states, I do think they're going to probably go to Beto O'Rourke before they go to Joe Biden. Though up in the Northeast and seeing states like Vermont, which are heavily progressive states, you can also argue that these states may not be as heavily progressive as you think. They just may not like Hillary Clinton. Maine may not be heavily progressive. They just may not have been in support of Hillary Clinton. Keep in mind, she only won the state by 2% when Obama was winning it by double digits. Going over to Vermont, Bernie Sanders still got around a 5 to 6% write-in vote in the general election, which means that some people still had I guess they had discontent with Hillary Clinton being the presidential nominee. And it wasn't just because of policies. I mean, Bernie Sanders was from the state of Vermont, so that can be an argument made there. But going up into this part of the country, I really think that Beto O'Rourke is better able to appeal to this area rather than the general, I guess, overall area up in the Northeast. Joe Biden is going to solidify up there. That's where Democrats really prosper in almost every type of election. Going over to this area, yes, Democrats usually rely on these for a presidential election victory. I don't think there's any recent time where Democrats have won the presidential election without winning these three crucial states. But Beto O'Rourke, I just think, can do better in terms of appealing to the voters on this side of the country. It's really hard to go super in depth when, especially since I try to condense these videos pretty short compared to when they could be up to hours long if we're talking about a Sanders versus Biden primary, but I try to condense them down into 10 minutes. Just not everything can be covered super quickly. But again, they may not be too inclined to also vote for someone like Joe Biden. Now, going across to the rest of these states, South Dakota, I'm going to give to Joe Biden. Iowa, I'm going to give to Joe Biden, considering he's already leading there right now. Giving him Illinois is no real surprise. Kentucky goes to Joe Biden, but Florida, I do think Beto O'Rourke can do well in, especially with a heavy Latino population. Hillary Clinton absolutely decimated Bernie Sanders here in 2016, but again, Joe Biden is not Hillary Clinton, and also, if we look at recent history, it has gotten a little bit more in favor of progressives. I'm not saying O'Rourke is exactly a progressive, but I do think that Latino population is going to do very well for Beto O'Rourke. Now, going off to the rest of the Sanders states, just a lot of them are not too inclined to vote in favor of establishment Democrats. So I'm going to actually characterize all of these in favor of Beto O'Rourke. I'll probably cover it more in a live stream. I'm getting a new webcam. Thanks to you guys, because I sent out a GoFundMe, but that's a whole other topic. I'll make another video about that later because I want to thank you guys for that. But once you do that, I'll probably make a live stream covering more in-depth analysis in terms of the races here. But Minnesota, I'm going to have to give to Joe Biden. I do think Joe Biden is going to prosper across the white working class area, across the Rust Belt. This looks like a country divide for whatever reason. Very interesting seeing a map like that. Along with Indiana, I just think that Joe Biden is going to really hold on to this area and just be able to convince them to vote for him. Again, they hated Hillary Clinton. You look at the general election, she lost these three states. No Democrat has lost them in 24 to 28 years for whichever state you're looking at, but she lost them against what the Democratic Party thought would be their best candidate to run against, Donald Trump. I'm not saying anything bad against Donald Trump, just the Democratic Party did not expect to lose these states, and I'm telling you that right now. But Joe Biden is a different type of Democrat. He is not exactly Hillary Clinton, and I can tell you that right now. I do think he'll do a little bit better than her in those individual states. So that wraps up today's video. Thank you guys for watching this video. Comment down suggestions below, and I'll see you all tomorrow.